Hi, everyone. David and I are pleased to welcome you to our Q2 community call webinar. So we're looking forward to spending the time we have allotted with you today to give you updates on what's been happening over the past several months across our community and ecosystem. Oh, Dave, did you want to progress the slides? Yeah, we'll give you a recap on what we've been up to over the past couple months. We're going to share some updates across our various working groups, interns, and the product stack we maintain. We'll share a number of different announcements about the community and ecosystem, and then give you a glimpse and peek of what's coming up and forthcoming across the different events we'll be attending and updates that are coming through the various product streams that the community is working on. And then hopefully we'll also have some time at the end for open question and answer from our attendees. So first off, we're going to just recap a number of the different virtual and in-person events that the team and community have been attending to help provide the advocacy and education across the market around the adoption of open source digital public goods for the wide range of use cases that we support to help advance last mile financial inclusion. So we're going to kick it off with the attendance that Godfrey had representing the Mifos initiative at ID for Africa. He was able to attend the panel on behalf of Mifos and speak and make a number of good collaborations and key contacts with various country stakeholders, looking at their digital public infrastructure journeys and also building more of the connections we had in place with the Secure Identity Alliance. So we're looking forward to continuing to build our position amongst the burgeoning space around digital identity, which is a key portion of helping to enable that last mile financial inclusions.
So the next one we had was the DMP inauguration event, which was quite a grand kickoff. And if technology works for me, you should be able to see the grand kickoff they had. So one of the great things was we also got a chance to talk during the DMP kickoff and explain a bit about the value we get back as a community from having projects. We've got 6 projects this year, as we'll cover a bit later on. But also we're able to talk a bit about the progression of people that started out being participants and interns in previous years, and this year are actually being mentors, which was a really great story to be able to tell, and part of the value we get back as an open source community from participating. This is what I thought might happen. Let me try and stop that. Great. Ed, do you want to cover the next one?
Yeah, we want to really express our gratitude to Luis, Julia, Isabel, and the team at the Inter-American Development Bank for giving Victor, myself, and David the opportunity to present to a large audience across the Spanish and Portuguese speaking communities as part of their Code for Dev webinar series. So we're able to give a comprehensive overview of the community and ecosystem, our entire product stack of digital public goods, a demonstration that Victor provided of the CB solution, that was at the heart of the FINA Bien Award for the Future of Government Reuse, and also showing a bit more of how the community can actually interact with our code bases. So once again, thank you to the Inter-American Development Bank, and we're looking forward to continuing to deepen the relationships we have across Latin America as they look to implement our digital public goods for a variety of use cases.
So the next one we had was our UN Open Source Week. Both myself and Ed were out in New York for the UN Open Source Week, which was a really good week. Actually, we managed to pack quite a bit in, so we'll probably do a bit of tag team between me and Ed as we go through this and explain it. But we started off with the side event at the LinkedIn HQ at the Empire State Building. They have offices in there. It's only on floor 3. It wasn't the top floor of the Empire State Building, although I did get a chance to go back there later in the week when it was raining to see the view out the top. Um, but yeah, it was a great event to actually meet up with a lot of people from the community. You can actually see Luis, who was involved in the previous event, organising it, as we just said, in the top right there. We met up with Vinel from the Interledger Foundation we work closely with, and a load of other people. And of course, Ed managed to start his selfie count for the week.
Yeah, and there's one other point on the LinkedIn side event there. The focus was around AI, and it was neat to see some of the frameworks that are being developed to help, measure and monitor the impact on the labor force of AI, which is a key, transformative force that David and others have been exploring at various conferences, and we'll be sharing some updates from our AI for All working group as well. And so this year, the UN Open Source Week grew from just, I think, 1 or 2 days in the past, an entire week. So there were these side events that were highlighting. And then the first full day of the event was the OSPOs, or Open Source Program Offices for Good. And there were a number of interesting panels and sessions looking at the efforts that are growing worldwide. And we're happy to be supporting some of the efforts in Trinidad and Tobago around the OSPO that's being opened there, as well as the one that's being opened in Kenya, being led by UNDP. And once again, as David noted, we were able to increase the selfie count here. It was nice to have a reception in the evening along the banks of the river there with a beautiful view. And we got to see Fede from Mexico, who was in town for the event. So
The second day was focused on DPI this year, which was good and obviously very relevant to what we do and what we're talking about. And it had a mixed format. We had some in-person presentations in the big plenary room. So people from the UN, for example, as you can see on the bottom right, were talking to kick off the day. But they also gave a chance for some breakout sessions as well, which meant we had a chance to talk more in depth about topics and actually have more of a sort of an open discussion between people and see if we can drive those things forwards. And the first one of those that Ed's going to talk a bit about was the DPI Safeguards event, which Ed was involved in.
yeah, thank you, David. So as part of my role as co-chair of the Universal DPI Safeguards Working Group, we were leading a session to give updates from the 2 cohorts on the group. We'll talk a little bit more about those updates there, but we shared progress that we were making around building out a set of measurement tools and assessments and indicators to help countries monitor and evaluate their performance in implementing the various DPI safeguards. So it was nice to have the opportunity to present the progress to the many attendees from various countries that were at the UN Open Source Week. And I'll pass it on to David to talk more about the session on digital sovereignty he was able to be on.
Yeah, so the session I was in was about digital sovereignty. I was there on behalf of GovStack as well as on behalf of Mifos. So I was able to sort of give a more mixed message about what we find for Mifos in our experience, but also how GovStack works in an interoperable way to be able to enable digital sovereignty. There's a really good discussion. Really, lots of people able to really participate in that conversation. We had Yolanda, who's to my left as I was sat down, right as you see on the screen at the moment, from the World Bank there. We also had Hannah from Mastodon, and we had Laura from the GovStat partnership team there. A really good discussion. There wasn't space in the room to get everybody in. There was a queue outside and registration scheme. So unlike FOSDEM, I was able to get in the room because I was there. But it was just like FOSDEM in that, there was probably about 50 people in the queue outside that weren't enabled into the room. And then we're able to give a playback for those that weren't able to participate back in the plenary. Quite an auspicious room, as you can see by the lady with the bird above, which if you want to look on Wikipedia, it will tell you the whole meaning behind that bit of art. But yeah, really a good venue to actually participate in.
So another one of the side events was graciously hosted by Microsoft up on their top floors of one of their skyscrapers, and it was a good opportunity to once again come together and learn more of the collective efforts of the various private and public sector companies that are pushing forward with helping to enable countries to adopt digital public goods for a wide variety of use cases, ranging from payments to identity to secure information exchange as part of their journeys around digital public infrastructure. So
And it's a fantastic place to see a lightning storm from as well, being that high up in the building. It was quite dramatic. And then the next day, we're able to join the PwC side event that they held. So we were able to participate for the morning there. A lot of good discussions again around DPI and many other subjects we're able to get involved in, learn from what some of the other DPGs were doing. The one that you see down at the bottom is Decidium, which is a DPG based in Barcelona. It's been adopted by the Barcelona Council, but now being rolled out many other places, enabling communities and how to make decisions within a community fashion, etc. Very interesting talk to hear what they're doing and maybe some bits that might be relevant to our community. And then we went straight from that side event to something else, Ed.
yeah, so luckily, since David and myself were in New York, and we have a number of the colleagues who are part of the Mifos board directors in Northeast, we had an in-person board meeting, which we try to do on an annual basis. And so we'll spend a little bit more time introducing or reintroducing members of our board of directors later in the meeting. But it was great to see Allison once again in person, see Min again in person, and for the first time, meet Andreas in person. We really want to thank Simone, one of our advisors, for providing the Impact Hub as a space for us to not only have this meeting, but David and I use this as our base to do some co-working together while we were there in New York City. So we touched upon like our strategic goals and objectives and discussed some of the key focus areas for the initiative and ecosystem going forward that David and I will be leading with the guidance of our boards.
It was a great space to work from, and obviously being in New York for the week as well gave us a great opportunity to actually meet up with some more of the community. And I really would say as we go through later on in the deck, some of the places are going to be over the next few months. Please do reach out if you're going to be there as well, because it's great to actually meet up with the community. So often we do it on calls like this and through Slack messages. To actually meet people in person is absolutely great. Food seems to have centered a lot of this, Ed. But yeah, some great food, some great company, opportunity to meet people. It was great.
Yeah, we were able to meet Nee and share a meal with him on several different occasions. I think there's one more photo if you click one more time, David. So, oh yes, and we were able to
Yes.
yes, we were able to get photographic proof of David eating avocado in the form of guacamole. It's a running inside joke because he's not the biggest fan of avocado, but he did it at the LinkedIn event. So
So not only selfies, but avocados. You now know what I have to put up with. Um, Then from there, I travelled back to the UK, had a brief respite of a few days before I travelled out to Geneva. lovely scenery in Geneva, although I really didn't actually get a chance to see much of it. I had about one evening where I was able to go out and see a bit of scenery. It was pretty full on days from 8 o'clock in the morning to about 8 o'clock at night on most of the days that I was out there. But I was at the Global Digital Collaboration event. It's the first time this has been run in Geneva. I know some of the organisers very closely, and I've been chatting to them both before and after, and they were a bit nervous how many people might turn up. They'd only had a few hundred register just before the event. But when we actually got to the event on the morning, there was well over 1,000 turned up. They were busy handwriting out passes for those that hadn't got their registered before they arrived for the event. The food ran out in the canteen one day because there was more people than they ever thought might turn up. But it was a hugely good event to get together and discuss quite a range of topics, not just about wallets and identity, although that was kind of the focus of it, but then lots of other conversations spun out from the side. It was a good chance to meet some of our other DPGs there as well. So OpenCRVS was there, so we were able to have a good meet up with them, and a load of other DPGs that I hadn't even met before. It's been such a good success. I know they are planning to organise it again in 2026 with a part of the press, a bigger venue, I gather, that can hold even more people. So I think in 2026 it's certainly going to be one of the key events of the year. I also got chance to participate in one of the sessions. So the way it was organised, there was 36 organising groups who each organised all of their schedules and put up sessions and had it agreed. And then all these sessions were occurring around the edge. So again, I was in one about specifically about ID and wallets this time, and what that can mean in terms of digital sovereignty and DPI. So I was presenting there alongside the DPGA and other people. So it was a good chance, and you can see some of the signs of the auditorium, so there are people just milling around at the bottom. Next up after that was the Moduloop community meeting. This time it was a virtual community meeting. So they do two in person and then a virtual community meeting. So I dipped in and out of that over last week. Along with some others I've seen from the community that were in and out of sessions on that. Always good to understand their roadmap. Mifos got a few call outs as being obviously one of the technologies that can be used for FSPs. And obviously my claim to fame is that I did actually win one of the sessions of the quiz. Not the overall winner, but one of the sessions of the quiz I actually won. So that was quite nice. The next community meeting is in Nairobi, Kenya in October. I think that we've done them.
Yeah, and we'll give a glimpse of the upcoming events we'll be at throughout the rest of the year later in today's webinar. But now we're going to shift over to sharing some updates. So David's going to start by giving an update on the various working groups he's been helping to lead and coordinate.
Yeah, so the first working group I'll give an update on is our architecture working group. This one is probably the least attended, if I'm honest, out of all our working groups. So we're going to actually shift focus a bit and refocus it in September and start something a bit different. So we've got a running list. I should have put a link on here so people could add any items they want, but it's on our community engagement pages, and I'll send out the link afterwards when we do the video link for this. Where you can put on topics you want to discuss at the architecture. And what we're going to do is try and have some focused sessions. We're going to advertise those sessions and what the topics are a bit more in our general channel, not just the working group channel, and on our social media, and see if we can drive forward the architecture in a few key areas such as, refactoring, API layers, security, etc. So we'll be a little bit of a different shift for the architecture working group come September. The documentation working group has been busy. They have now updated the contributor onboarding page on our community engagement site. And our aim over the next quarter is to finish off our community engagement site. I know people are looking at it because someone sent me a load of links that were broken because we're halfway through the activity, which is great. I always welcome getting feedback because it may be links I hadn't spotted. But we're aiming over this quarter that we'll have our community engagement site up and running. And Ed has also been running a working group that's been doing some work on our websites and web pages. Some of those you've seen updated, and there's a new site that they're working on at the moment, which will be out later this year, hopefully. And then our last working group, but by no means the least, is our AI for working group. This still has a large number of attendees attending. Over this quarter, it's been much more driven by the interns and discussing the work they're doing. So it's been great to have those on board. We've actually even got some people attending it now who are considering being interns in GSOC next year and wanting to understand what we're doing in the AI ahead of hopefully applying next year. So that's a good focus. But I would say actually the power of the AI working group is probably the Slack channel. As much as the meetings that occur, the Slack channel really now has an active conversation flowing. I really have to do very little and just let them discuss and do everything else in the AI Slack channel. So it's a really good sort of mini community within our community that's now meeting up and driving that forwards. Now over to some product updates, and I'll hand over to Ed to kick off.
Okay, yeah, so around Mifos X, our product suite, which we positioned last time as the backend platform, as well as the front-end user interface via the web app, as well as the Kotlin-based field officer application. And so the next release of the core platform we're targeting for sometime in the August timeframe, and it's going to be built on top of the most recent Interact backend 1.12.1. It's continuing to include a number of functional enhancements that have come through the community, a number of loan enhancements around the ability to amortize and capitalize fee income coming from the Pepper Soup project, as well as the ability to waive off like what's remaining due on a loan as part of like contract termination when somebody's in default. And then there are also a number of savings enhancements coming from the work we've been doing with a fintech in West Africa. And as part of the forthcoming roadmap in the green area, we're continuing to wrap up the type safety and refactoring efforts, which we'll touch on later. Community is working with a number of different areas around modularizing the security architecture, authentication, authorization, user management. And then Victor and his team have also been working on the implementation of a self-service plugin to help replace the deprecated self-service APIs. And then we're also looking to incorporate a number of enhancements to the current account and overdraft module coming from the community as well. And then I have additional details on the forthcoming releases of the web app and the field officer app. But in terms of the web app, the next release will be coming out of that very soon. And we're very happy to Felix and the rest of the community who have been continuing to guide regular and ongoing efforts. And the next release is going to contain all of the upgrades to the latest stable versions of Angular. We're now at Angular 19. This version of the web app will also consume the auto-generated OpenAPI TypeScript client that gets created from the backend, which will help with the maintainability as well as consistent versioning of the web app going forward. And then there'll be a whole slew of various bug fixes and usability improvements. But on to the next slide, David. Yeah, and once again, thank you to Felix for guiding the community around the process and impetus to have a more forward-looking roadmap in place for the web app. This is still a living document that we're going to be incorporating into our Jira product discovery space for the web app, but there are a number of key, pillars we want to advance. So first off is just continuing to improve the overall stability and quality of the application and code base itself in terms of, making sure bugs are fixed, making sure it performs well, helping to remove features that are unnecessary and create a distracting user experience, and also ensuring consistent responsive design across different interfaces. We also want to ensure that we can continue to move forward with greater modularity for developers around the web app. So we're looking at the POC we did around micro front ends before, looking at reusable components and hopefully taking learnings from the parallel effort that Craig, one of our interns, has around building a React-based modular UI. And another key point that is going to be a priority is having an actual configuration wizard to actually allow a wizard question-based interface at the initial runtime of the application that builds upon the current product walkthrough we have, which will allow end users to actually configure the settings within the web app through the wizard itself. And then we also want to extend the ease of use and improve the overall usability. So incorporating better documentation, having better context sensitive help, redesigning some of the key pages like the home page, our customer pages, our account dashboards to have more relevant information. And then another area which centers around also usability is just having better look and feel that's more in line with modern banking applications. So being able to have richer data on the pages and having a layout that's more driven by activities and what the users are doing, given not all of our users are having physical branch-based operations. And then lastly, another point which touches upon the modularity as well as the ease of use and usability is having like the actual, features and flows that are displayed in the web app user interface be driven by what that end user has and has as needs in terms of use cases, products they need to support. So this involves a number of potential changes, but we want to hide some of those functionalities that are not accessible to users based on their data scoping. And then if you're, practicing microfinance or group or center-based methodologies, not having to see all the other products that aren't relevant to you. And then conversely, if you're a digital or fintech-based institution, being able to have a UI that's guided by more of your operations there and not some of the center and group-based navigation that's at the forefront of the current web app. But we'll share links later on to the Jira product discovery, as well as other detailed ideas that Felix has listed out. And we really encourage the community to share their feedback on how they'd like to improve the web app going forwards. Yeah, and this is just another glimpse at the quarterly downloads across the Mifos X download package that we get from SourceForge. So we'll continue to try to have additional metrics, and as we have more regular releases of our various products, we'll also try to provide metrics on those. Yeah, and so during our last webinar, I think we once again helped to clarify the positioning of our mobile app stack. So for customers, we have both Mifos Pay as a wallet interface, as well as Mifos Mobile, the mobile banking app for self-service operations. And then we have what was previously the Android client as our Mifos X field operations app. And so I won't spend a ton of time looking at what's forthcoming, as we're going to get into that later in the week when our interns showcase their midterm progress across the various applications. But across all three of the mobile applications, we're implementing a number of technical enhancements, continuing the migration to Kotlin multi-platform, getting better testing and CI/CD processes in place, having better documentation and automated testing coverage, and then just ensuring that the architectures are in line with the designs and patterns that Rajan has been guiding our mobile development team. And then in terms of the functional capabilities, we're continuing to enhance the existing ones and implement new ones. And we've been working with some of the microfinance institutions from the community across Latin America to implement a number of new functional capabilities, as well as improve the overall design and look and feel. And then in terms of oh, you can go to the next slide, David. So, and then around Mifos Mobile, we're continuing to drive the needs and requirements there from some of the credit unions we're interacting with within Trinidad and the Tobago region. So we want to first off make sure there's a stable set of core, must-have features as part of what any type of financial institution, whether it's a credit union, a bank, or an MFI, would expect their end users to be able to do from the operation, and then have a solid and consistent design. And then we're also incorporating a number of like the best practices and features that a number of our ecosystem members have implemented in their mobile banking apps into the community mobile banking app developed on Kotlin. And then last but not least, we're continuing to enhance the Mifos Pay mobile wallet interface. So similar technical enhancements being implemented. Oh, you can go to the next slide, David. So, yeah, similar technical enhancements, but continuing to increase the functionality there for both customers and merchants as part of the mobile wallet application, and also continuing to extend integrations with Payment Hub to help enable those external payment flows. But once again, we'll have closer look at all these great enhancements that are going into the mobile apps as part of our midterm showcases coming later this week. But on to you, David, for updates around Gazelle and PHEs.
Yeah, certainly. So Mifos Gazelle has been busy. We didn't do a release last quarter, but there's a little announcement to come up shortly about what's happening in Mifos Gazelle. But rather than me talk through what's been happening with Mifos Gazelle, let's hear a bit from the people that actually been involved in it. So, what has it meant for you getting some of your code actually within release 1.1 of Gazelle?
So it's very exciting for me, and I'm a little bit nervous also that my huge chunk of code will be on the production side. So it's a great opportunity for me that Mifos helped me. So, yeah, very excited.
So, Devash, tell us what you've been working on recently in Mifos Gazelle.
Okay, so I was working on building the ARM architectures. Actually, we have AMD architectures, Docker images ready with us. So we are focusing on building the ARM architectures. Means the Docker images which are right now supporting the AMD architectures, we will be supporting the ARM architectures also. So it will be working on Raspberry Pis, it will be working on virtual machines, Azure AMD virtual machines, ARM virtual machines, and any cloud, uh, any cloud that was working on that.
So, how did you come to know about Mifos? How did you come to get involved in the community?
Yeah, so I was working at, means I was contributing at Mozilla Foundation. So last year I got selected as a mentee, C4GT mentee at Mozilla Foundation. So I just wanted to know more about Mozilla Foundation. So I was just uh, wondering about the Mozilla clients and how the Mozilla tools is being used. So I just come across before Subazil and I thought it's an open source repository and open source community, and I would great to work with them.
So what excites you about the future of Gazelle? What do you want to work on next? Where do you want to see Gazelle go?
So that's why I'm very excited about it. Like my code will help someone. Means there's a vision of Mifos initiative, right? That we want to help 3 million marriages, something like that. So my code will be used by someone and helping someone and adding a life to that, adding value to their life. So this thing excites me to work. And so that's one reason, and there are plenty of more reasons, but that's the most main reason.
Excellent. What would you say to anyone else considering an internship with Mifos?
Uh, Internship with Mifos. It's great. Means the mentor I have got. Means I don't know I'm lucky or not, but the perfect mentor which my mind was asking for, I got. Means he hold my fingers. He paved the path for me. He took the huge steps. I took the small one. But we ended up building a huge product. I have learned a lots of things by just communicating with my mentor. So we were just communicating, and I'm learning, but I'm not aware of it that I'm learning. And I'm learning K9S tools. I'm learning Circle CI tool. I am learning how to automate the pipeline, how to create the pipelines, how to create the Python scripts. I'm learning all of this just by communicating with him, just by communicating with him. So that's one thing added a huge value to my life. So very fortunate. I consider myself.
Thank you, Devash. It's been great hearing a bit more about what you've been doing and what you get out of it, as well as what the rest of the community will get out of it. So, thank you very much for your contributions, and we look forward to them continuing into the next release as well.
Yes, yes, yes. I would like to contribute further also. It's like GSOC mentor or something. Till then.
Excellent. We'll hold you to that. Thank you, Devash. Well, as you've just heard, we're releasing version 1.1.0 of Mifos Gazelle today. It's now available for download and install, which is very, very exciting. And we have a number of new features within it, including support for ARM64, as Devash has been working on, just explained. We have support for the first end-to-end demonstration of payments flowing from one Mifos X tenant Green Bank to a second Mifos X tenant Blue Bank using Payment Hub and vNext. We also have observability within the product for Commander workflows and Commander Operate. And we've reduced memory utilization for all components down to at least 24 gigabytes. And depending on what you installed, it could be even lower. We've also got a number of fixes and updates within it. So we've got the pipelines rebuilt for Payment Hub EE, a big piece of work that needed to be done. We've got dependencies moved to JFrog for things such as Payment Hub Coin Connector, etc. So reducing the dependency on out-of-date repositories. And we've now tested it on Oracle Cloud Instance infrastructure and updated for Kubernetes 1.32 and a host of other little bits alongside. So look forward to you downloading and enjoying it. And we've got a lot more great stuff coming up into our next release, which will be around September, October time, including a lot more work from some of our other interns that we've got on board this year. So as we say, I mean, it's been great this year. We've had a lot of our interns working on it, and we've got some other features coming up soon. Actually, even before September, we might have this little thing. It's just a little teaser for you. It's a Raspberry Pi. We are so close to getting everything running on the Raspberry Pi. It was kind of a debate. Did we hold up launch to just get there or not? But maybe in the next few weeks, we'll have a little dedicated section on DPI in a box, as we're calling it, on the Raspberry Pi. But certainly tune into some of the other intern showcases later this week as well, because you'll hear some of the other exciting features that will be in the next main release, September, October time, of Mifos Gazelle. And I think that one of the things about Mifos Gazelle, and that's why I put Payment Hub after it this time, is the work that's been done in Mifos Gazelle around redoing the pipelines and a lot of that work that Devash has been working on. Actually, it's time to contribute it back upstream into Payment Hub so that we can get the benefit of that. So we're looking in the second half of this year to actually do version 1.14 of Payment Hub, which will have all the benefits of those updated repos, the JFrogs, the pipelines, and everything else for production deployments. So you can see where these products start to actually now fit together and contribute to each other. So having done one announcement a bit early, maybe, over to some other announcements from Ed.
Yeah, and I think just one other point to add around Gazelle, like we've really seen and validated at the various events we've been at, whether it was the Caribbean DPI Summit or the panels at the UN Open Source Week or the conversations as part of the DPG collaboration group. But there is this immense need for what Gazelle is looking to provide, whether it's being able to help a country rapidly evaluate how digital public goods can help them build their DPI use cases, or it's standing up some type of sandbox environment or lab in a country. Everybody seems to be talking about the need for these types of tools, and we really believe that Gazelle can fill that void. And we're in collaboration with a number of other DPGs to get within Gazelle. So really excited to see all the good work that David has been guiding with Tom and our interns. And it was nice to see Devarsh speak firsthand his experiences. So in terms of announcements, we just wanted to, call out some of the community members we'd recognized over the past couple months via LinkedIn, and then highlight some of the, forthcoming efforts that will be on the way. So Victor was able to go on site and meet with Rocio and the team at Finabien to physically present a version of the award that they had generated for the future of government reuse, since it was just a virtual award and no like physical plaque until Victor and the team brought it there. And we also captured some video, which we'll be formulating into a video testimonial talking about the experiences there. And then hats off to Priyanshu and Akshat for getting their paper, looking at the AI work they've done around bank statement analysis, accepted here at the conference and published there. And then we also want to once again give a shout out to Felix to recognize his efforts as our star contributor, and we'll be announcing our next star contributor soon as well. And then we also wanted to give a shout out and a thank you once again to Michael Vorberger for his many years of service as a member of the Mifos Board of Directors, but also as a volunteer as part of the Mifos and Apache Fineract communities. So Michael has been a key individual that's touched the lives of many of the interns and volunteers across our community over the years, and we're looking forward to continued technical contributions from Michael as he injects a lot of energy and knowledge across all aspects of our community. So yeah, and that's a nice segue to just once again reintroduce the members of our Mifos board of directors to the broader community, as well as the strategic advisors we're working with. So a key priority over the coming months of David and mine is to have like our board and advisors more actively involved in, the day-to-day activities and ongoing efforts of the community and ecosystem, and be engaged with each of these individuals on a strategic project that brings to bear their expertise, knowledge, and connections. But we're going to be formally announcing soon Andreas, who joined the board recently. He's got an extensive background in the startup space and will help us with more of our efforts there and helping to, build out services and commercial opportunities in the fintech space, as well as innovation around AI and products based in AI. And then Min has been a member of our board of directors for more than a year now, and he's also heading up our growth activities. And then we also want to reintroduce you to Ali, whose day job is part of the Fed, helping to lead industry readiness for Fed now. But she's helping give her knowledge around payments, especially in emerging markets like Latin America. And then Zahida continues to share her expertise as a seasoned professional, helping build communities across the open source community through a number of different corporate entities. And then lastly, Shashi has been a member of our board for a couple of years. He's got wide experience in the payment space, also working closely with governments, and now leads a fintech providing solutions for agriculture and farmers across the states. And then lastly, down at the bottom here, we'll just briefly run through the various advisors we've had. So we've worked with Brian Barnett for a number of years. He's helping to advise around some of the policy and some of the reporting aspects across both financial inclusion and digital public infrastructure. In the realm of fintech, we work closely with Vincent, Ali, as well as Marie, as they represent a number of diverse perspectives and opinions around fintech, ranging from fintech more in developed markets like Vincent, fintech in Africa led by Ali, and then inclusive fintech, which is a big focus of Marie, who is a former member of the Mifos and technology readiness teams. And then Deepa is one of our advisors who's been helping us around our outreach and storytelling and helping to tell a better narrative of how we're trying to create that world of 3 billion Maries. And then Simone has been an advisor helping to guide us around our fundraising initiatives and also, just ideating on new ideas and entrepreneurial efforts. And he's a gracious host whenever we're in New York City. And then Diego is the newest advisor we introduced earlier this year, and he's helping to head up some of our strategic efforts around Latin America and the Caribbean. But if there's any members of the community ecosystem that might be interested in being an advisor, potentially a member of our board, we're continuing to expand both of those and look forward to sharing the work of our expert individuals across the community. But David, I'll pass on to you if there's anything else you want to speak to around our board and how we're looking to more deeply engage with them.
It was great to meet some of them in person, often just on the phone when I was out in New York. But yeah, we want to make them a bit more involved in what we're doing, hoping they might come along to some of these calls in the future, might get a chance for you to see them and a bit more of their thoughts. But we're also going to look to, it sounds weird to say set objectives, but find something that fits their niche that we need to progress with the community and get them a bit more involved in what we're doing. And they were very up for that when we discussed that in New York. And me and Ed will be spending time with them over the next couple of months to find those, and we'll update you how that's going later in the year. So next we're going to just talk about, because obviously we talk about our community, but there's the wider community. We've heard us talk a bit about DPGs and DPIs that we work with, and some of the collaboration we do. And the first one, I think it's back to you, Ed, is to talk about work we've been doing with NLNet Foundation.
Yeah, so last webinar, we introduced some of the type safety refactoring that is centered around the new command processor that Alex implemented and designed. We hit some, small delays for the project, but we're going to be merging all of the pull requests related to the key modules and packages that Alex had identified. So stay tuned as those are getting shipped in the releases of the back end. And we once again, are looking forward to the foundation getting this type safety in place will help to enable around greater modularity and restructuring of the code base to improve that overall developer experience. But once again, thank you to NLNet for this donation from their Commons Fund to support these much needed refactoring efforts. And a big thank you to Alex for his leadership here in stewarding the design and helping to review and merge the pull requests coming in. So.
The next thing we hear a lot about, Ed, is DPI safeguards, and I know you've been very closely involved in this group. Do you want to say what you've been doing over the last quarter?
Yeah. So I won't go through all of this in great detail, but the working group was broken out into two cohorts. One was focused more around compliance tools, and the one I'm helping to co-chair is focused around assessment and indicators. So essentially, as part of the next version of the framework, was aiming to provide a number of practical tools to help various responsible authorities or actual countries implementing DPI to help, monitor and evaluate the effectiveness and progress and the impact the safeguards approach has on their citizens. And I'll share a few details of what that looks like. And then as we move towards the rest of the year, there's two other phases of the working group. One is to essentially improve the framework as a whole as part of V2. And then lastly, implement or design and implement their playbook. And that's where we'll look to get input from the countries that are across our community, as well as the technical service providers as well, as it'll be key to identify how there can be a playbook to have countries actually implement the safeguards in practice. So in terms of the assessment tools, we wanted to take the framework in the current version, which has, as we noted in the last meeting, a set of principles at an operational and foundational level. And then based on your respective needs or what individual you're representing, can come up with a set of process and practice recommendations on how to actually implement these safeguards. And we needed to then, come up with a set of indicators or assessment tools to help monitor and evaluate the progress and, status of actually implementing these indicators. And our goal was to help harmonize the various sources of data out there and indicators that were there, and then help the respective responsible authorities get from somewhat abstract principles to actual tangible ways to measure progress. And so in order to do this, we came up with a set of measurable outcomes, which helped us then arrive at these indicators both on the supply and demand side. And we're building this out into a library, which takes not only the indicators we're developing, but those from across other various sources across the industry, from entities like the DPI map, Dial, and others who are helping to provide valuable tools around DPI, and then allow through the framework those interacting to develop an assessment tool that pulls from these various indicators across the sources of data. And then real quick on the next slide, just showing that there are a number of different industry efforts to help measure and assess the impact of DPI. And we at the framework are looking to harmonize and provide clear visibility on what role the framework plays in terms of being an overarching framework and set of principles, as well as a practical way to actually measure the progress and impact of following a DPI safeguards approach. And then lastly, for the community, the UN Office of Digital and Emerging Technologies team will be hosting a webinar coming up later in August, where they're looking to gather feedback from various individuals across the various communities working around DPI, and also just to help others learn more. And so you can scan that QR code to register for that webinar, but it'd be great to have members of our community attend and give their input there, as there are going to be a number of breakout rooms around AI and financial inclusion and how DPI and the safeguards can help ensure that the services governments build around these are, safeguarding the individuals and their well-being.
And then in terms of GovStack, I work quite closely with GovStack, and we continue to participate in the payments working group. It sounds like I've been saying this for ages, but the next version of the specification is almost out. I've seen the final draft, I've been told, on multi-currency operations. So hopefully that will be out in August or very early September time. I've also been trying to expand out the use cases. So it's always concentrated on G2P and P2G, but we've now expanded those use cases out to look at government to business and business to government. We've started drafting that. That's going through the process now. So we're hoping that will be in the specification specification by the end of the year, expanding it out. And then next year, it's starting to look forwards more towards cross-border transactions and what does that mean in the context of G2P and P2G. And we're sort of helping with some proof of concept ideas to try and establish what the specification might need to adjust to over the next year. We're also continuing to participate in the Wallet Working Group. Since our last call, the release candidate was published and has its review cycle. So that feedback is now being incorporated in, and that will be out beginning of September. It's just going through the final stages of incorporating the feedback that we received. I'm also continuing to be in a number of discussions with GovStack about the role Mifos can play in country implementations and country engagements. Often it starts from maybe an ID landscape, but soon it turns into, well, what can we do in payments to receive or make them out, and having those conversations with them. And the GovStack is still on track at the moment. It's aiming to be an independent foundation rather than being hosted by three organisations, ITU, SDEV and GIZ at the moment, but be an independent organisation by the end of 25. And that means there is some quite exciting stuff that they've got planned beyond then. One of the other groups I've been involved in is the Dynamic Coalition on Digital Financial Inclusion. This is an IGF, Internet Governance Forum collaboration event, but it's been very much been led by Interledger supporting it, hosting the meetings, etc. It's been great. I'm pleased to say that in the IGF event in Norway, that we published our policy blueprint, which is now available. You can scan the QR code. It'll take you to a link where you can go through it. It's not too long. It's only about 16 pages, but the work will continue on now to look at where we can take that further. But it really does fit quite well with Mifos's core mission for financial inclusion. And really, we've been able to impart some of the stories, some of the things we found as we've gone around into that document as well. So that's been great to be involved in that. And then obviously, one of the big, huge things for us at the moment is the summer interns. Last time we had a community call, we talked about how many results we were seeing and how many people we might want to have on board. Well, it's our biggest year ever, and we've had 23 interns in total across 3 different programs. We had such high quality applicants that we, as Mifos, had currently helped organise the Mifos Summer of Code. I think it's the 2nd time we've run that, Ed. And so we're able to have some interns directly in Mifos Summer Code. We've got a huge number through Google Summer Code, and we've got a huge number through Code for GovTech. And if you scan that link, you can find out a bit more about each of the interns and the projects they're working on and get to know them a bit more. People like Devash we heard from earlier. And if you don't want to scan, we have 2 great calls coming up at the end of this week. It's already at the midterm point. I can't believe it's gone so fast. And so we've got 2 calls with our interns. You've seen them on social media. You'll see them pushed even more on social media over the next few days. But it's a chance for them to talk about their projects, introduce themselves to the community a bit more, and tell you what they're going to do in the second half, and maybe even have some, sort of calls for action for the community in terms of, can you help us with this? Can you test this? Do you speak German would be one of the ones I think they're actually desperate for at the moment as well. So please do join those or pick them up on the replays afterwards. They will be on our YouTube channel shortly after the events. Coming up, well, don't forget we have all our events on our event listing calendar, but to give you a heads up of where we're likely to be in person, Ed, do you want to run through some of the events we've got in person while I have a sip of drink? My voice is about to die.
Next up, Min and I are going to be traveling to Denver, Colorado to give a talk, looking at how a number of different open source components are helping to bring disruptive innovation around payments, especially from the perspective of lessons learned from payment use cases in the emerging markets and how these can be brought to bear in the US fintech space. And then Adam Monson is going to be attending Community Over Code, formerly ApacheCon, which is going to be in Minneapolis, Minnesota this year. And he'll be there on behalf of Mifos. And then in October, Andreas and potentially myself will aim to be at the FinTech Open Source Foundation or their Open Source and Finance Forum in New York City. And then we'll also have a representative from our community that we'll be selecting soon. That's going to be in Munich for the GSOC, Google Summer of Code Mentor Summit. And then myself and Victor will be at the Interledger Summit in early November in Mexico City. And then since David and I have to split duties, he'll talk and he'll be at the Global DPI Summit, which is at the same time in Cape Town this year. So we're looking forward to attending the second Global DPI Summit, building off of the initial one in Cairo, Egypt last year. And then we're also going to be at the DPGA annual members meeting in Brasilia, Brazil. I think David and myself will both be there. And there are a number of other events that we might attend that we'll update the community on later on. But I'll let David touch upon these and some others that aren't on the screen here.
Yeah, we've got a number of events that we may be involved in. Obviously, Moduloop will probably be there either virtually or in person, and a few other things around as well. But as I say, if you're in these regions, please do let us know, because it's nice to meet up. And without me being in Mexico, Ed's going to have to find someone else to take a photo of with guacamole. So, we're looking for volunteers. And then we've got our webinar series continuing. So as I said, we've got the two intern webinars later this week. In August, we're going to have a security related webinar. And then in September, we're going to look more at agentic AI for financial inclusion. So stay tuned to our channels, and General will announce those in due course. We also have our volunteer webinars running in September, October, November, and December. And then, just don't forget to look at our community calendar. Sometimes it is last minute. We get opportunities to put things up or talk about presentations we're going to be doing. So do keep involved in our community calendar. But equally, if you're involved in something as part of the community, do let us know. We can add it on there for people to attend. It's not just about what we're doing, it's about what the community is doing. So do let us know if you want any events to add into there.
Yeah, I
Back to
think
you,
this
Ed.
is, once again, we want to promote the opportunity to be highlighted in our blog. So we're getting the Start Contributor posts going regularly, but we also want to highlight the various financial institutions using the software, different solutions powered by Mifos, as well as different partners and companies in the ecosystem, either supporting or building integrations on the platform. So be in touch if you'd like to be highlighted in our blogs. Yeah, and we're continuing to build towards our 2030 vision and reaching as many clients and Maries as we can as possible. So we're looking for commitments in that. We'll be continuing working with our volunteers and advisors to formalize more of this campaign. And then, I'm not sure where that QR code is going to take people to now, but I think we're nailing down the date for the next community call. But we're going to try to, I think, coordinate it with the final showcases for our intern programs. But stay tuned, as we'll have more details on that. And then, I think just want to, note, I think next community call too, we'll hopefully have more progress around some of the efforts we have at a country level around DPI. Some stuff's coming to fruition there as well. But I think, one last reminder before passing it to David to close, but you've got the QR codes and we'll resend the links. But our interns would really appreciate as many people being there live and attending their showcases as they share the progress they've made midway through their internships.
Excellent, thanks, Ed. We've got all our different channels on the right hand side, so do stay tuned, because sometimes we'll put odd videos up on YouTube, etc., and we don't get time to do as a webinar. I know Gazelle is going to be putting some out over the next few weeks as well. But thank you for joining. As always, we seem to have managed to run exactly for an hour, Ed. I can't believe how much we've managed to cover, but I think it's just testament to how much we have going on within our community. If there's any questions anybody has, please do type them in the Q&A. We maybe could take a couple of final questions before we wrap, and hopefully see you on one of our webinars in the future. a second for any other questions. We had one earlier which we answered. Yes, we will be recording the intern thing. So if you can't attend in person, don't worry, they will be recorded, and we will have those up on our channel within a couple of weeks after the event so people can see them. It doesn't look like we've got any other questions coming in. Well, thank you for joining us. Thank you from me, and thank you from him. If you're in the UK, you would understand that joke from the two Ronnies. If you're not in the UK, you probably that's completely gone over your head, but never mind. But thank you for joining us today. It's great to have you with us, and we look forward to having you join us again very shortly.
Take care. Thanks, David. Bye bye.
Cheers, bye.